Hello, my name is Rusty Coones, and I have with me Frankie Loyal. He played Hank Loza on the hit series Mayans MC. How you doing, Frankie?
What's up, Rusty? How you doing?
Great to have you here, man.
Good to see
One of
you.
my closest actor friends. Um, you've always been very generous and helpful. Um, I really look forward to having you on here, man, and appreciate you taking
Thanks.
the time out to do this.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Good to
Right
be
on,
here.
man. So anyhow, you got a lot to talk about here, man. I mean, the show alone is a big story, but there's a lot of stuff leading up to that. And what I want to do is I want to talk about your earlier days of life when you first got on two wheels. I'd like to talk about the fact that you've got 21 years sobriety, which is a heck of a thing to do. You know what I
Thanks.
mean? And some of the other stuff before we get into the music and into the Mayans. All right.
Great. Yeah, sure.
All right. So in your early days, what was your first contact with two wheels?
Well, my first contact with two wheels would have been my little sister Annie. Her godfather, his name is Barstow Tommy. We were born out in Barstow, Apple Valley, in the for me, yeah, early '70s. And he had a 750 Honda that he had it chopped out. It was really cool. And I got to go on the. I would ride with him on it. And my first memorable experience of it was, I'd like to say it was the ride, but I think it was stepping off the bike and taking the inside of my leg off with the exhaust. Got a nice burn. When I had a little leg, that burn was huge. Like
You know,
huge.
it's funny. Anybody that rides motorcycles and any down to the little mini bikes and everything, they always get that leg burn.
Yeah,
And man, those leg burns, they don't stop for a while, man. They're pretty painful.
yeah.
So
It was interesting. Yeah,
it's like
kind
a
of took
rite
the
of
fun out of
passage
it.
almost.
Yeah, well, yeah, I got it young, and I think after that too, being the time, we all looked up to Evil Knievel. I mean, he was a daredevil. He, did these larger than life stunts, and I think the obsession with two wheels was really, was kind of implanted. And like I said, Barstow Tommy, I wish he was my godfather. He'd also got me a nice Easy Rider poster for my wall when I was a kid. So I had that on my wall as a kid. So I was just always obsessed. And I think it was just ingrained, from a young age. And
Yeah, I came
that's where
from
it
that
started.
area up in northern Central Valley, and
Right.
Evil Knievel came through every once in a while. He'd go to Fresno, and
Wow.
he'd jump buses over there. Man, that was a scene. Man, he'd be riding these big old heavy, like 750 Nortons and
Right.
the Sportsters and stuff. And for the time, that was the bike to ride. But
Right.
compared to what people are using now, it was insane. It'd break your back, and he did get his
Right.
back broken. But what a
Right.
rider
He took
that guy was,
pills.
man.
Yeah. Well, you were
Unbelievable.
jumping those buses too back in Fresno and Madera.
I was jumping the canal banks on my dirt bikes when I'd get chased out of the fields by the farmers because
Right.
I'd be ripping through their roads with all that dust, and the dust
Right.
goes up and it creates dust mites, and they eat the cotton. And when
Oh.
you're a kid, you don't even think about that, but the farmers
Right.
are pissed. They'd be chasing
Right.
in the truck.
Yeah. I ended up on one of those canals. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, you were telling me you were riding one of those three-wheel ATVs one time through the orchards up there, weren't you?
Right. And the irrigation ditch got smaller and smaller and more narrow, and there was a nice bump. And I remember doing a nice flip into the canal, landed on me, and yeah, the mud was a little cemented, but I got out of it. I mean, it was a good scare, but I guess it was kind of cool. I mean, I walked away from it, but yeah, I mean, we had no fear. You have no fear back then, and you just go for it. And I remember, kicking into good speed, and it was Christmas Day, and that was probably a memorable Christmas present. But yeah, that sucker was fast. But yeah, it was, went out in the orchards out in the Central Valley, and there's not a whole lot to do there. So when you have that escapism, that's really that's necessary. Especially when you're a young kid.
Yeah, right on, man. So, what was your next motorcycle as you got a
Well,
little bit older?
well, me and my buddies, we borrowed one. I don't know if that's what you say, but we borrowed one. We kind of had a community bike, and that thing was I don't know how many spills that thing took or what parts were left on it, but we basically had that thing. It was a pass around until the wheels came off. Literally, we had that. Back then there was no helmets. You could, in California, and so yeah, we were hellions on that thing. But also, as I got, I really got in the whole punk rock. Kind of really influenced by a lot of old English punk rock bands. There was a group of friends I hung out with that had Lambrettas and Vespas, and although those things weren't as fast and as notorious or fierce as a Harley, they, got in on those too. And eventually, I remember having a Dyna. I got on a Dyna. It was a '98, and that thing eventually imploded. And when I started doing Mayans, actually, I didn't have any transpo because I didn't have a car, and I had a friend who loaned me this beautiful, beautiful road glide, and I had it indefinitely because there's been no way I was able to go back and forth from Northern California and Southern California for these potential auditions, and thanks to him, I was able to be available to make that happen.
So you auditioned before they did the pilot and
I
landed.
did.
And you'd
And
have
it
to
wasn't, yeah.
commute from Northern California.
Well, at the time, work as far as acting goes was really scarce. And
Yeah.
although I've been here 20 plus years, I lived in the Bay Area for about 20 plus years also. So I had a girlfriend at the time. We were pretty serious. So I'd bounce back and forth between there and here. And when things got really slow, I found myself up there again a bit more. And once the show that there was a potential possibility that either I could audition. It was actually just to audition for the show.
Mhm.
I was up and down that the state quite a bit, and the kindness of that friend helping me out with that was I never forgot that. That was really
That's pretty cool, man.
something else. Yeah.
So you were telling me after you had that bike for quite a long stretch, and you gave it back to your buddy, you actually surprised him a little bit.
I did. Well, the first pilot for Mayans, it was an okay paycheck. Let's just say that. And there were some repairs that needed to go on this bike, some upgrades, it needed some love because it ran great. It was still a beautiful bike, but there was just some things that, people know, like, oh, this needs to be fixed or this needs to be cleaned up. And I think I spent more than half that paycheck on, the repairs and the upgrades because I was internally grateful to this guy for what he did for me. People don't do that, so that either they trust you and respect you enough to put themselves out for you like that. And I also knew that. So I wanted to say, hey, like, I appreciate what you did for me because
That's
I
great.
had it for a stretch. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool, man. So talking about that, you've been sober 21 years, huh?
Yeah. 21 years since May 21st, 2002.
Man, that's great. And in the music industry and acting and riding motorcycles, which you're around everything and everybody that's drinking.
Yeah.
That must have been tough a couple times, huh?
Yeah. Well, once again, when you have your bike, you've got escapism. I can always pick up and go. Yeah, it can be tough, but you find yourself, you find that need to kind of, stay on the mark, and then you have your support systems, your people and people that kind of get where you're coming from, and they have your back, when the wheels are wobbly, as they say. And I've been very fortunate. I've had the kindness of strangers. I've had friends, people along the way that I've met that kind of got me to where I am in my life now. And I tell people straight up, yes, I have a great job. Mine was a great show, and so many good things came from it. But you're also talking to a guy that screwed up his life so good that I pretty much lost everything. And I had to fight to get it back. And I mean, really fight to get it back. And I just tell people, so when, people put people on pedestals or think that they're above anybody's, reach. I always said that's not true. I mean, if I can turn my, my life around after screwing it up completely and endangering myself or whatever, and end up, on the other side because I wanted to, then anybody can do it. And I really try to make that clear. I'm no better than anybody else, and I'm no less. And I try to pass that on to people very much so.
Did you just come to a point where you were kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Greatly. You just have that point where, we talk about the Central Valley, right? I remember being out on this open field, and you know how you have those foothills where they're just kind of that dead grass, and they just go for miles of foothills. And I remember just looking out going, I think this is as good as it's ever going to get. It's not going to get any better than this. And I remember believing that, and which was dangerous. And I would always equate that thought that, where do we go from here? And I think that's kind of what it was. There had to be an extreme change, and that's what happened. And I still kind of look back and go like, wow, it's been 21 years. I remember when it was like 21 hours or 21 minutes or 21 seconds,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a trip.
Right. So during your early acting career before Mayans, what kind of gigs did you do? How'd you start?
Oh, tattoos, criminal number one, criminal number two. The first speaking role, though, I did get, and I don't really know what came of it. Could have ended up on the floor for all I know. But in San Francisco, Don Johnson was doing a show called Nash Bridges.
I remember that.
And I auditioned for that, and I got it. Now, keep in mind, I didn't know what SAG was. I didn't know what the union was, but I immediately became part of the union. Got some really good national commercials back in the day when they paid, fantastic amounts of money for a young guy. And it was just kind of this up and down, journey. And then I got, another movie where I got to do a little scene with Tilda Swinton, who's just a brilliant actress, one of the greats, if you ask me. And she was just so cool and gracious and kind. And I was very fortunate on my way when I was learning, the trade and the work, to meet good people like that kind of planted the seed of protocols and how you need to be or how you should be, just because you don't have to be a diva or a jerk, or, you know what I mean? You can just do the work and be a nice person. Yeah. And that was a good lesson early on. And, I bet everyone from, Tilda Swinton influenced me on that. Paul Sorvino, he was another man, the guy who played Paulie on Goodfellas. Right. I attribute a lot to him. I remember in my early years before I got to know him, Danny Trejo, he was another one, just super. Right. And even being in an audition years before Mayans and seeing Emilio at the audition and just hearing that man talk, going like, who are these people? They're like, wow. And how it's all come full circle now. It's a trip. A trip. Yeah.
So at what point in your career did you start doing motorcycle stuff? Was the Mayans the first one with that?
Yeah, as far as with the character in motorcycles, yeah.
Yeah.
They were really, I don't know if it was the network, the showrunner. Nobody gave me a hard time from day one. I didn't have to sign anything saying anything that I couldn't ride during the season. They knew it was my only transpo. They were really, really good to me, but that was the character that, obviously had
they were telling all the guys not to ride to work or ride
I think there's some contracts go with certain actors where they don't want them on, because if they get hurt, and that's a liability, that's the money. And yeah, but,
on Sons, man, like a bunch of us rode every day to work.
Right.
Because the traffic was horrible.
Right. And I like that. I like having that. I don't know. I don't want to say it was a freedom, but yeah, I guess it was. But I also like being able to get to work and not have to worry about traffic and park the bike right in front of a trailer. And it was nice. It got a little rough towards the end of the season because some of the morning shoots, the bike would slip a little bit because I'd be going at a certain speed, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's ice. Or it was snowing in some areas, and that, because sometimes we were filming in the hot summers, and then we got some of the colder weather days, and those weren't always the best, coming to and from, the studios, because about, 40, 45-mile ride back and forth, or if we shot further out in location.
So you were telling me about this one time when you were on location and the traffic security cops, the off-duty guys, were out there. You took
Yeah.
off on a bike or something?
Yeah, well, I don't know how it started, but there was a little bit of mutual jeering going back and forth about, I think they were taunting me to see if I'd really like steal their bike. Like I think I said I was going to take that bike one time. And I think, it was kind of an ongoing, like, oh, really? You're going to is this the season you're going to actually do it? And I don't know what it was. One night we were filming late night, and my scene hadn't come up, and it was just a couple of us doing this particular scene. And one of the officers had his, I saw the fob connected right to the bike, and I knew it was good to go. And it was the most awkward thing to try to reach over and, hop on, but I did, and kicked on the sirens and took it up the road.
The sirens also?
Yeah. And I guess that's not what you're supposed to do when you're filming.
Yeah,
They have to think about noise, but I shut it off.
Pissing people off, man.
Yeah, but it was like, don't dare me to do something. Don't tell me I'm not going to do something. There's probably still that streak in me where it's like, well, I'll probably do it. So I try to watch it, but I didn't get in too much trouble for it.
So what was the high point of Mayans and working on that project?
Well, I think one of the things for me that meant a lot was, people talk so much about Hollywood and how evil it is and how evil the people are. And just, I'm amazed if they really knew how boring it was in so many ways, they probably would, probably find another topic to go on. But we had our showrunner, Elgin James, who, we came from the same world. And to see what he did with his life, how he turned his life around, and how he treated so many people, on the show. It didn't matter what department you were in, whether you were a lead, series regular, a day player, a background actor. It just didn't matter. The way he created this world by the people, and how he treated them was just something that I got to go to work every day and be like, this is cool.
Yeah. Really nice guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'll work 24 hours a day around the clock, 8 days, in a row for that guy, because he was such a great boss. And I think he pushed me to be a better actor, to be a better person. And, you don't have a lot of people that root for you that way. And I think walking away from that, I walk away with that experience, but then I've got Emilio Rivera as a big brother now, or, you have these people in your lives that you're just like, wow, who would have thought? These people I used to watch on TV. Yeah, they're part of my life now. Yeah, so it's a blessing. It's overwhelming too, because I don't think I've really processed it yet. I'm still kind of. It's only been a month. We were going for about 6.5+ years. It's been a minute, and I think I just get hit with these different emotions from time to time. Like, whoa, What
are you thinking is down the road when it comes to acting right now? Any idea?
Well, for a minute, I was pretty happy because the minute the show ended, I was getting auditions, and I was super pumped. So I was reading scripts, I was, doing these auditions, and then we got the strike. So everything came to a screeching halt. And so right now at this moment, I took it as the universe saying, hey, man, you need to take a breather, sleep a few more hours out of the day, and slow down just a little bit, because I was almost welcoming that crazy after Mayans ended, because I didn't want to come down from the rush of it.
Yeah.
But life sometimes will take things away, and and kind of what happened. So I'm taking some time to just going on a lot of rides with my guys. I'm taking it easy, but the minute that strike goes and it's back to work, who knows?
You talk about that high that you have, when you're in front of the masses and everything. And you notice a lot of musicians, especially, they become depressed, alcoholic, and things. And people say, why? Why? Well, I noticed it myself when I was touring and playing in front of thousands of people. Sometimes you have that euphoric thing, man, in front of the crowd. It's like, and then there's a natural reaction. It's a thing that happens. You can't help it. You don't even know it's happening to you.
Yeah.
Within a day or two, you get this, as high as that was, you get this equal low. You know what
Huge,
I mean? And
huge.
and it's weird, man, but it happens to everybody. And you were on
Yeah.
a series there, you're working with them for over 6 years, and now you're coming off of that high. So I get what you're talking about, man. It's you almost have moments where you feel like, what the hell am I doing? Your soul
Yeah.
searching,
Yeah.
a lot of different stuff before you finally level out again.
Well, there's that. And, we talked about earlier about the sobriety thing. I had a routine. I had a place to be. I had something that, was purposeful. And I can say I gave every bit of energy and everything, blood, sweat, and tears for this show. And I'd do it again. And I would do it for my bosses. But I think it was also the, taking away that routine is probably what kind of freaked me out the most. And yeah, it's, like I was talking with a friend of mine, she's like, it's only been a month, like mellow out. It's okay. And it wasn't that anything was wrong, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm feeling right now. I'm kind of here. And, I felt like, because we had the pandemic, we had showrunner changes. We had so many things happening through the course of that show, that part of you was also in fight mode. And then the fight's over, and it wasn't 10 rounds. It was, it was ongoing. So your body's adjusting to that. As a character, my character was in a very dark place. He internalized a lot. He was in a lot of turmoil and just a lot of hypervigilance. Well, my body believed that was actually happening in real life. It doesn't know that I'm pretending.
Sure.
So that physical reaction also had to, kind of find its way out. And that was part of it too. That was really hard.
So you know what? While we're talking about that,
Yeah.
give us an idea of where Hank Loza fit in with Mayans. What was Hank Loza all about?
Well, he was a sergeant of arms, and he was, he was somebody who was entrusted by Marcus Alvarez. He was sent from Oakland to come down to this border town, and they patched over one of the clubs. And, I believe he was somebody who was, similar like to my relationship with Elgin. He was somebody who looked up to Alvarez. In the first few seasons, you just see that it's almost like that's his father. Not his brother, it's his father. And he treats him with such a respect, because I'm here because of you. I've got this family, this everything because of you. So I think he had that concept, kind of like some people view AA, it's something bigger than himself. And he was all about it, good, bad, or other. And he was the guy that knew the young kids were doing dirt and doing stupid things sometimes. And he knew sometimes the old dogs were a little too stubborn to see another way. So he was holding up these two dams in the name of the club. And eventually one or both could collapse. And he's probably the guy that would end up drowning, because he's just that guy. So he had a lot on his plate, but a lot of it was in here. And now this season, people are finally going, oh, so this is what's going on. He's, he didn't say a whole lot before. Well, he didn't have to. He, you knew what he was thinking. You just look at him, or he could say 3 words and the job would get done. And that's what I kind of liked about him. He just, he gets it done, and he doesn't have to say a whole lot. He's a man of action.
So he was kind of like some people would call it the enforcer, the sergeant at arms.
Yes.
He was the muscle for the charter.
Right. But he also had to be that, sometimes he had to show diplomacy. He had to hear both sides. He had to offer everything. Sometimes he had to be the cooler head, because we had a couple of guys that were loose cannons. And we had other guys that, had hidden agendas. So his job was ongoing. The only time he ever seemed to have any reprieve is when he would go hang out and have dinner with his mom once a week, or, he needed that balance. I think I think he was a good guy, but there were good guys doing crazy stuff. And, I'm curious to see how it ends, because a lot of us were kept in the dark towards the end of production. So we don't even know how it ends. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. It's actually exciting for me this time, not knowing how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, everything happens in post, man.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say anything, but yeah, I heard there's some people that are going to be coming on and doing some guest appearances, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
I guess everybody's just going to have to wait and see, huh?
Right on, man. Well, look, it's been a great interview. Do you have anything before we wrap it up that you want to add to this?
Actually, to be honest, I don't. I think you I think you came at me pretty direct. I mean, I hope I didn't say too much or I said enough,
No,
but
no, no.
good.
No, man. This is your forum, brother. You can
Yeah.
say whatever you want, and I want I want people to understand who Hank really is. I want them to know Frankie Loyal,
I appreciate that.
not the character. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I know you, and
Right.
you're one of the most generous, giving, honest people I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I
Dead
do.
serious. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And I'm not even going to say don't change because I know you're not gonna. You know.
I appreciate that.
But
No,
you know
thank you.
what? In my life and the places I've been, and I've been in some high highs and some low lows, you stand out above the crowd. And there's only a handful of people in Hollywood that I know, that whether I've worked with them or not, that I feel that way about. You know.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. Well,
I
you are a
well,
true fucking gentleman and a brother.
thank you. I appreciate you for that, and I appreciate the hell out of you, Rusty.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Wow.
And thanks for coming on right now. And I just want to say my hat's off to you, man. Great job,
Thank
brother.
you.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, man. I'll see you.